55 miles west of Mexico City lies Mexico's strongest and maximum security prison, known as Altiplano. Surrounded by concrete walls and barbed wire fences, this prison is so secure that thousands of guards are present at all times for its security, while prisoners are monitored 24 hours a day by CCTV cameras in their cells. No prisoner had ever escaped from there. Because of this record and its ultimate security, a prisoner was brought to this prison in 2014. This prisoner looked like an ordinary man, but his name spoke volumes about his true identity. This man, known as El Chapo, was the world's biggest drug trafficker and one of the richest men in the world. He had previously escaped from a high-security prison called Puente Grande in 2001, after which he was kept in Altiplano prison with even more extra security. The Mexican government was now confident that its country's biggest criminal was behind the strongest bars in the country, under 24-hour CCTV surveillance. But just 1 year later, the government's illusion and Altiplano's ultra-maximum security all came crashing down. Mexico's strongest prison had been breached. The record of no one ever escaping from there was shattered. How did he escape from this inescapable prison despite being monitored by cameras? Why was America more eager than Mexico to catch him? What is the complete story of this El Chapo?
The man with the towel over his head is believed to be El Chapo, being led by Mexican authorities to an airplane bound for Mexico City.
This is the moment Joaquin El Chapo Guzman makes the Mexican government look ridiculous.
The $4 million reward now being offered for El Chapo, and this morning...
But there does remain a central question at this hour. After multiple escapes, will he now be brought here to the U.S.?
El Chapo was born in 1957 in La Tuna, a rural area in the state of Sinaloa, Mexico. His family was very poor, with farming being their only source of income. However, it is also believed that his father cultivated opium. His father would spend most of the money earned from farming on drugs and debauchery, and would beat everyone at home. Because of these bad habits, his father was unable to run the household. El Chapo was the eldest among his siblings, so he dropped out of school after the 3rd grade and started taking on family responsibilities at a young age. To support his family, he sometimes sold oranges and sometimes did other odd jobs. From childhood, one thing was ingrained in him. He wanted to earn a lot of money, no matter what path he had to take. This desire to become rich quickly pushed him into the world of crime. At the age of just 15, he started cultivating marijuana with his cousins. The money earned from this work gave wings to his dream of becoming rich. He decided that if one could become rich by following this crooked path, then so be it. But how far could one go while living in a rural area? Therefore, to make a name and money for himself in the world of crime, he decided to leave his home and village behind. Leaving his home and village, he also left behind the name given to him by his parents, Joaquin Archivaldo Guzman Loera, and adopted the name El Chapo. He was a short man, so everyone in the local language called him El Chapo from the beginning. But who knew that this name would later become the biggest name in the world of crime in the pages of history? After leaving his hometown, El Chapo started his career as a contract killer. He would shoot anyone for a few dollars. Seeing his cruel nature, in the late 1970s, drug lord Hector El Zuero Palma hired him. He was so ruthless in his work that he would even shoot the group's key employees if there was even a slight delay in shipments. Ambitious and ruthless, El Chapo quickly established his position in this group. He was directly put to work with him and made in charge of handling all the logistics. In this way, El Chapo began to acquire every little detail related to drug trafficking. Everything was going well in the Guadalajara cartel when he was arrested in a murder case. After that, his cartel began to disintegrate and divide into several parts. Taking advantage of this opportunity, El Chapo, along with several other traffickers in northwest Mexico, formed his own Sinaloa cartel. By then he had learned the intricacies of drug trafficking. Therefore, he did not face much difficulty in establishing his business.
In the years that followed, while other cartels struggled to supply drugs due to increasing government restrictions, El Chapo was inventing new ways to deliver them. He would smuggle drugs by hiding them in fire extinguishers or filling them in chili powder cans. This way, he always managed to evade the authorities. In addition, he devised a unique means of transportation. He built many advanced underground tunnels around the Mexico-US border, which stretched for several kilometers. These tunnels were well equipped with ventilation, electricity, and vehicles for supplies. Almost all mafia groups used either roads, planes, or boats via the sea to smuggle drugs. But because these routes were under strict surveillance by Mexican and US authorities, most cartels were caught. El Chapo, however, avoided these routes, which kept him out of sight of everyone. In this way, his business grew day by day, and through his network, he began sending multi-ton shipments of cocaine from Colombia and Mexico to the United States.
His cartel was involved in the production and distribution of cocaine, as well as methamphetamine, heroin, ecstasy, and marijuana. In a short time, the Sinaloa cartel's network expanded. It spread across continents and nearly 50 countries, becoming the world's most powerful drug trafficking organization. El Chapo's star was on the rise. His business was soaring, and as his wealth and cartel grew, he also began to attract the attention of the government. Most of his earnings came from smuggling drugs into the United States, so he was at the top of the criminal list of both the Mexican and US governments. Becoming a big name also put him on the radar of other drug cartels in Mexico, besides the government. His rivals wanted to eliminate him and take over his business. In this struggle, in 1993, his rival, the Tijuana cartel, which had already killed several of his members, attacked him in an attempt to assassinate El Chapo. This clash took place at the Guadalajara airport, where several shots were fired, targeting El Chapo. He somehow managed to escape, but during the incident, 6 people, including a priest, Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo, were killed on the spot. The death of a high-profile religious figure angered the public and the government, leading to swift action in the case. Photos of everyone involved in the shooting were published in the media, and arrest warrants were issued in their names. One of these photos was of El Chapo, under the name Nacho Guzman, who had now become famous among the general public. He started moving from place to place to evade the police. He first fled to Tonalá, Jalisco, but after a few days he left there and hid in a hotel in Mexico City. From there, he bribed a military officer with approximately $1.2 million through one of his associates. But all his arrangements failed, and on June 9, 1993, the Guatemalan army arrested him under the leadership of the same military officer. He was brought from there to Mexico and sentenced to 20 years in a high-security prison called Puente Grande for drug trafficking. Thus, El Chapo was behind bars, but his life and daily routine remained virtually unchanged. He had bribed dozens of guards and prison officials with money. By paying hefty bribes, he maintained his luxurious lifestyle and business meetings, continuing to operate his growing drug empire. The icing on the cake for him was when a corrupt officer named Damaso Lopez Nunez became the deputy director of security at that prison. El Chapo fulfilled every one of his demands and gave him suitcases full of money. Whether it was cash, cars, bungalows, or any other facility, El Chapo provided him with everything. In this way, El Chapo and Damaso became very close friends, due to which El Chapo was living a free and comfortable life, even while in captivity. His life inside the prison continued in this manner for a long time, but after this, his comforts and privileges began to be threatened. Due to increasing corruption in the prison, the government started cracking down on guards and officials.
But the pressure began to mount, leading to the resignation of El Chapo's friend, Damaso, from his position as Deputy Director of Security at the end of 2000. He hadn't even recovered from the setback when, a few days later, on January 18, 2001, the Mexican Supreme Court issued an order that completely shattered his peace of mind. According to the Supreme Court's order, Mexico could now extradite prisoners like El Chapo to the United States, whom the US had been demanding for years. In fact, Mexico had been a hub for the drug trade for decades. Due to its shared border with the United States, smugglers had been freely supplying drugs there. Approximately 90% of the drugs entering the United States are smuggled from Mexico, and the American government spends billions of dollars every year trying to stop it. Since El Chapo had entered this business, he wanted to punish them. After the Supreme Court's prisoner exchange order, El Chapo became desperate to escape from prison. He didn't want to fall into the hands of the Americans.
During his reign, it became a common saying that no drugs could leave Mexico without El Chapo's permission. This popularity became his enemy. Therefore, to escape, he bribed more than 70 people, including jail guards, officials, and the prison warden, with millions of dollars to get them on his side. This entire operation didn't even take him a day, and on January 19, 2001, he hid in a laundry cart containing clothes meant for washing. From there, a guard brought the laundry cart to the prison's front gate, from where El Chapo was put into a car and driven away.
However, according to one theory, he simply walked out of the prison wearing a police uniform. He was helped most in this entire escape by his friend and former deputy warden, Damaso Lopez Nunez, who would later become a key figure in his drug trafficking business. The fact that a criminal like El Chapo could escape from prison so easily was extremely embarrassing for the Mexican government. The government took action and arrested and imprisoned all the guards involved in the escape, and even the warden. Meanwhile, after escaping from prison, El Chapo began living a free life at his hideout. He didn't hide in fear of the police and the government, but instead began to further expand the Sinaloa cartel. He held meetings with other mafia leaders from around the world, bringing them into his fold, and his business began to grow even faster. He had become such a master in drug trafficking that on one hand, he was 4 steps ahead of his rivals in this business, and on the other hand, he was miles away from the clutches of the government authorities. In addition, his luxurious life's also a subject of much discussion. He married 4 times, fathering approximately 15 children. In addition to his 4 wives, he also had multiple affairs. He was also involved in many other illicit activities. Furthermore, to create a good image among the local public, he also did some social welfare work by building some buildings, etc. This led many people to perceive him as a Robin Hood figure. Whatever he did for show, his work and money were stained with the ruin of millions of people and the blood of thousands. His cartel had killed approximately 10,000 people within 10 years. The result of his cartel's brutality was that his rivals began to get out of his way, and the Mexican authorities also became demoralized. In 2006, when the Mexican army launched aggressive raids against drug cartels, many smugglers and their groups were apprehended. But the army couldn't even get close to catching El Chapo. El Chapo's continued freedom resulted in his Sinaloa cartel controlling 40 to 60% of Mexico's drug trade, generating an estimated $3 billion in revenue annually. El Chapo had become a leading drug trafficker, and in 2009, according to Forbes magazine, he was ranked 701st on the list of the world's richest people. His net worth at that time was estimated to be more than $1 billion. The largest portion of this income came from smuggling drugs into America. Therefore, America was relentlessly pursuing him. To stop this increasing drug trafficking within its country, America wanted to arrest El Chapo and imprison him in an American prison. In this effort, America declared him public enemy number 1 and announced a reward of $5 million was declared for providing a lead. American agencies also provided funding and all possible assistance to the Mexican government to capture El Chapo. But despite all these preparations, El Chapo remained on the run for 13 years after escaping from prison. He would always get tipped off before the military arrived to apprehend him and would escape. However, during this chase, the military arrested several of his members and bodyguards. One of these bodyguards gave the military a major lead, revealing that El Chapo would soon be going to one of his safe houses to meet one of his ex-wives. During this time, with the help of the US, Mexican authorities also tracked the phones of El Chapo's close associates. On February 16, 2014, El Chapo went to a safe house to meet his ex-wife. As soon as he switched on his associate's phone to make a call, the authorities immediately got news of his location. The Mexican military raided the place shortly after. But the steel gate of the house was so strong that it took the military a considerable amount of time to break it down. By the time the military got inside, it was too late, and El Chapo had escaped through a secret tunnel built under the bathtub. But his repeated escapes couldn't last forever. This time, he escaped from the safe house and went to Mazatlan, where US agents, along with the Mexican Marines, had set up a base to capture him. It didn't take long for the authorities to pinpoint his location. Just 5 days later, on February 22, 2014, a raid was conducted on a room on the 4th floor of a hotel where El Chapo was hiding. This time he had no chance to escape, and the Mexican Marines immediately arrested him. El Chapo was captured, and this time placed in Altiplano, Mexico's most secure prison. Located 55 miles west of Mexico City, the prison security was so strong that not a single inmate had ever dared to escape from it. The prison was surrounded by concrete walls and barbed wire fences, and there were towers everywhere inside with guards stationed on them 24/7. The prison area was declared a no-fly zone, and mobile network connectivity was blocked for several kilometers around. In addition, over 750 cameras monitored the prisoners around the clock, and some special guards were assigned solely to monitor the feeds from these cameras. Due to the robust security of this prison, no prisoner could even plan an escape, let alone actually escape. Because of the prison's impregnable security, El Chapo was sent behind its bars, where he was under constant surveillance. The public and the Mexican government were relieved after El Chapo's imprisonment in Altiplano, but the US was still apprehensive. The US knew that El Chapo's imprisonment would neither stop his business nor the supply of drugs to America. Furthermore, the US feared that he might escape from prison again. Therefore, the US asked the Mexican government to hand El Chapo over to them. But the Mexican authorities refused. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto even said that Mexico was capable of handling its own prisoners and that El Chapo would not be able to escape from prison like last time. But the Mexican president had no idea at the time that these words would come back to haunt him. Because the cunning El Chapo, imprisoned in the prison, had begun preparing for his escape from the very day he was brought to Altiplano. Within days, he devised a plan to escape from Mexico's maximum security prison and confided in his closest confidant, his wife Emma Coronel, who frequently visited him in jail. His wife Emma was more than 30 years younger than El Chapo. Despite the significant age gap, El Chapo and Emma had a very good understanding, and she was equally involved in his crimes. This is why El Chapo entrusted Emma with the responsibility of getting him out of jail. To execute the plan, she enlisted the help of El Chapo's 4 sons and the former deputy director of the prison, Damaso Lopez Nunez. Damaso Lopez had been unemployed since he was removed from his position as deputy director of the prison due to corruption. The search for work led him to become part of El Chapo's cartel. The plan to escape from El Chapo's prison involved digging a large tunnel underground, connecting directly to the shower area of his cell. In fact, the only small shower area in the prisoner's cells was kept out of the range of CCTV cameras for privacy reasons. It was a blind spot where the cameras couldn't capture any visuals. Therefore, the plan was to connect the tunnel to the shower area. The tunnel would open exactly inside that cell. For this, Emma gifted him a watch during visiting hours, which had a GPS tracker inside. The prison authorities overlooked it, considering it a normal watch, which would later prove to be their biggest mistake. While El Chapo was waiting for his escape route inside the prison, outside, his group began working to execute the plan. A piece of land was purchased within 1.5 kilometer radius of the prison, where an atmosphere was created to make it look like a construction site from a distance. From there, the work of digging a tunnel several feet underground began, with many workers working in shifts day and night, turn by turn, for weeks and months. The construction work continued, but the prison authorities had no idea whatsoever. In about a year, El Chapo's gang emptied approximately 350 trucks of dirt and built a tunnel about 1.5 kilometers long and about 1.7 meters high. It was equipped with lamps and ventilation pipes. There was also a complete arrangement for air and electricity. In addition, a motorcycle was also arranged there to make it easier for El Chapo to cross the tunnel. He had now been in Altiplano prison for about 1.5 years. The government was under the impression that he would remain imprisoned behind Mexico's strongest bars forever. But July 11th, 2015 was the day that would shatter the security of this prison and the reputation of the Mexican government. On this day, El Chapo was about to escape again, fooling everyone. On July 11th, as evening approached, El Chapo started pacing in his cell. He repeatedly went towards the shower area and then came back and started walking around again. He was waiting for the signal to escape through the tunnel that had been dug under the shower area. But the guards monitoring through CCTV were completely unaware of the whole matter due to a blind spot in that area. While repeatedly going towards the shower area, El Chapo went there again around 9 p.m. But this time he did not return. When he did not come out of the shower area even after 25 minutes, the guards felt something was wrong. As soon as they opened his cell and went towards the shower area, the ground slipped from under their feet. In that small area, there was a 20 by 20 inch hole, several feet below which a tunnel had been built, and there was also a ladder to descend into it. He climbed down the ladder and continued through the tunnel, which extended for about 1.5 kilometers and ended at the same construction site that El Chapo's gang had purchased. The fences surrounding Altiplano, the thousands of guards stationed there, and the hundreds of cameras providing round-the-clock surveillance, all the security measures proved useless. El Chapo had once again outsmarted everyone and escaped. His second escape from prison was a huge embarrassment for Mexico, and especially for President Peña Nieto. While the country was facing international condemnation, the US was reprimanding the Mexican authorities for it. Following this incident, the Mexican government sprang into action again and took strict measures against several suspected guards at Altiplano, because there was definitely some involvement of prison authorities in this escape as well. After this, the government locked down many parts of the country and deployed the army everywhere to recapture him. They also declared a reward of several million Mexican pesos for anyone providing information leading to his capture. But despite all this, El Chapo remained untraceable for months. The Mexican military, along with top law enforcement agencies from around the world, joined the search to apprehend him. But surprisingly, while El Chapo was declared the most wanted man and top agencies worldwide were searching for him, in October 2015, he was giving an interview to Hollywood actor Sean Penn. In it, he proudly declared himself the world's biggest drug lord. But this drug lord's luck was about to run out once again. His days of freedom were soon coming to an end. All of Mexico's forces, including the Mexican Marines, Army, and Federal Police, were working day and night to capture him. In this effort, on January 8, 2016, they received a solid lead. Following this lead, a raid was conducted on a house in the city of Los Mochis in northern Sinaloa. El Chapo and several of his associates were inside that house. To stop the authorities, his associates started firing. In response, the forces also started firing relentlessly. In this shootout, 5 of El Chapo's men were killed. But this gave El Chapo some time. Because of this, he managed to escape from there through a secret tunnel. He came out of the tunnel, stopped a car at gunpoint, and started to flee. But luck was not on El Chapo's side that day. He had only managed to get about 20 kilometers south of Los Mochis in the car when he was surrounded by military personnel with their guns drawn. He tried to bribe them as well, but these were not corrupt soldiers. Instead of taking the bribe, they immediately apprehended him and took him into custody. He was kept for a few days in the same Altiplano prison in Mexico from where he had previously escaped by digging a tunnel. This time too, his gang wanted to help him escape by digging a tunnel. But the story took a turn when this time the Mexican authorities agreed to hand El Chapo over to the United States. Sometime after his capture, in 2017, El Chapo was brought to the United States. The very country whose hands he feared falling into, he was now in their custody. He was put on trial for several months in the Federal District Court in New York. The security arrangements for bringing him to and from the court were so tight that when he was transported by car on the road, traffic was stopped, and the entire journey was monitored by a helicopter overhead. With such strong arrangements, the US did not want to give him even a 1% chance of escaping. The wait for the American authorities soon came to an end. And in 2019, a federal court convicted El Chapo on 10 criminal counts, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and murder conspiracy. The court sentenced him to life imprisonment and ordered him to pay a fine of $12 billion. Since then, the world's biggest drug lord and tunnel king, El Chapo, has been imprisoned in the US. He is serving a life sentence in a supermax prison. However, US authorities constantly receive reports suggesting that El Chapo might escape again. Thus, American authorities are always apprehensive, wondering when, where, and how this cunning criminal might escape.